Hello and welcome to TrackVia's Turning Ideas into Apps, our low-code TrackVia demo. Our presenter today is Brandon Gill. My name is Michelle Martz Mayfield, and I am the PR and Corporate Communications Manager for TrackVia. To get you started today, we're just going to go through a few housekeeping ideas. We have started you all off on listen-only mode. Please continue in that mode so everyone can listen to the webinar. If you have any questions, please submit them via the chat window and we will follow up with those after the demo is over. And if we don't get to them live, we will answer those within an email. The webinar is being recorded and we will send you that follow-up email with the recording within 48 hours after the demo is over. I think that's it for our housekeeping. Brandon Gill will be taking over as the presenter. He is our Senior Solutions Consultant at TrackVia. And Brandon, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle. So as Michelle mentioned, everybody, my name is Brandon Gill. I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant here at TrackVia. Just want to run you through a few things that we're going to cover today. If you've never attended one of these webinars, we do these monthly as a way to introduce everyone to TrackVia. So we'll be talking a little bit about who we are here at TrackVia, what low code is, which is the space that TrackVia is as a software, who can use low code. And then we're actually going to spend the majority of the time in a demonstration where we're going to be going through a simple application using TrackVia and showcasing what low code is and how you build and some other ways that you might utilize a low code platform like TrackVia. So a little bit about us. TrackVia was founded in 2006. We are headquartered here in Denver, Colorado, around 75 employees and over 350 customers. And you'll see that I've showcased a few different customers here on the right-hand side of this slide. And the reason why I chose these customers is one, just to let you know that we have some larger customers, some enterprise type customers, but also just to show the differences between these customers. You know, the North Face obviously is in apparel manufacturing, KSI is in oil and gas, Stearns Home Lending does mortgage loans and things of that nature. Honeywell's involved in a little bit of everything. Las Vegas Sands is a large casino and hospitality company. Deep Roots Harvest is a vertically integrated cannabis company. And the reason I show these again is because they're companies that are spread across all different industries. And one of the things that you'll see with low code is there's really no one industry that benefits from low code. It can be used across multiple industries to solve a lot of different problems and really be used in a lot of different areas of those organizations. And we'll talk about that a little bit as we go along here. So what is low code? Well, the textbook definition of low code software is right here on the screen. It's software that provides a development environment used to create applications through graphical user interfaces and configuration instead of traditional hand-coded computer programming. Now, the way I kind of break that down is low code is really going to be software that allows you to build workflow applications in a way that really does not require coding. It's drag and drop. It's very easy to use. It's very intuitive. And the way I think of it as a really great admin for a low code system is someone that maybe is technically minded. You can think through problems. You can think through workflows. You can think through how data should flow, but you're not necessarily a programmer yourself. And I lump myself into that category as well. We can also look at kind of the spectrum of low code. So Gartner and Forrester and other analysts like that, if you were to pick up their reports, a lot of them have reports on low code, and it's a term that is becoming more and more commonplace. A lot of larger organizations are starting to come out with low code tools, and to the point where they're even having to kind of chunk this up from low code into rapid application development versus developer toolkits and things like that, because the spectrum of what is considered low code is pretty broad. And it's a term that kind of came out around 2005, 2006. So TrackVia is actually one of the pioneers in low code. But if we look at the spectrum that I've got here, on the left-hand side are your lightweight tools. This is Excel, this is Access, this is Google Forms maybe, things like that, where you're not using any code to put these things together, but there are some limitations, right? So I think we've all probably experienced an Excel file that got a little too big, or data integrity issues and things like that. But Excel is technically low code. You don't have to code to be able to build some pretty powerful things within Excel, and it can be a great tool for a lot of use cases. It just has a hard time scaling across an organization. On the right-hand side, you have more of what I would consider a developer toolkit. So OutSystems, Appian, tools like that you may have heard of. These are technically considered low code by some of those analysts, although they are starting to get lumped into a different bucket now, because while they are low code in a sense, they provide you a framework in order to build your code around. You do still have to know how to program in order to use those tools effectively. So it's still not quite a business-oriented tool. It's more of an IT-focused tool. And when you look at TrackVia, we're really right in the middle, and we are what I would consider a true low-code solution. So everything that we're going to see as we go throughout the demo today can be built using a drag and drop interface. You can build different dashboards, different forms, things like that. It's designed to be very intuitive to non-programmers, but we do have some more advanced functionality that allows us to write some code to do some more advanced features if it's required for more complex applications. So you still get to kind of dip your toe into that coding bucket if you have people on your team that can do that, or if you are capable of doing that, but it's certainly not required to build very robust and scalable applications. Who is low code for? Really the broad answer is low code can be used by everyone. So at TrackVia, primarily our users are business users. They're business analysts, they are heads of manufacturing, they're warehouse managers, and they're able to utilize low code because they can build these workflows and build out these processes without having to bug their IT teams. Many of our customers don't have big IT groups, or they just don't want to bother their IT teams. They can be maybe third, fourth, fifth on the list of IT's priorities, but they need to solve their problems, so they can utilize low code to do that. And in fact, the majority of our admins are business users. They're kind of, like I said, technically minded folks, but they're not quite programmers. However, IT professionals can utilize low code as well, because it's just another toolkit to build out these business needs for the organization quickly. If you have an IT background, if you have a programming background, you're going to pick up low code in no time. It's going to be very easy for you. And we've got IT admins as well that can build out applications in a week or 2 weeks, what would traditionally take them much longer if they had to code it from scratch or code it using a developer toolkit or something like that. So really the benefit of low code is it can be used by everyone. So at this time, I want to step us into a demo here. And what we're going to be demoing is a project tracking example. So you can do a lot of things with low code. We'll touch on that a little bit when we're inside the software, but I like to use this project tracking, project management type example because I think it's an example that can be applied to a lot of different areas. I think all of us, whether you're a true project manager for your company or you've just managed a project in high school, a group project, something like that, we've all done some type of project management. So this is kind of the workflow we're going to walk through. We're going to start in the role of a project director who is going to manage all of our project templates and assign out new projects to project managers. Project managers will receive that and assign the individual tasks out to individual owners, and then those individual owners will start to complete those tasks. So we're going to go through some of that. We'll step into a little bit of the admin side of the tool as well to show you how to build, and we should wrap that up in about 15 minutes or so, and hopefully save a little bit of time for questions. But as Michelle said, if we don't get to all the questions here, we'll be sure to email some of those answers as well. So I'm going to step over now to my other tab here, where we all should be seeing TrackVia in the top left-hand corner here. And I want to start by just giving everyone a little orientation to the screen, let you know kind of what you're looking at. So top left-hand corner, we've got our TrackVia logo. This kind of serves as a home button to our main dashboard on any application. And this can, of course, be custom branded to your organization. You can put your logo here. You could have a custom URL and really make the system look and feel like it is your own. Right next to that, you'll see that I'm currently in the project tracking application. But what I always like to do for folks is hit this drop down here just to show you all the different demonstration apps that I have in this particular account. So asset tracking, deal flow tracking, facilities audit, inventory tracking, invoice approval. The list really goes on. And I show this to say that all of these different use cases could be built in TrackVia using the tools that we're going to look at today. So if you've got an obscure workflow that you can't find a point solution for, likely it can be built here within TrackVia. If you've got a more common workflow, like a quality control workflow or a project management workflow, it can be built in TrackVia just using the tools that we're going to look at today. So while we're looking at project management, we can do a lot more than that, and we do it for several different organizations. All right, right below that, I'm currently logged in as an admin, so I've got access to this admin toolbar. I'm going to stay logged in as an admin for demonstration purposes today, but we do have pretty robust roles and permissions that will allow you to permiss people accordingly so they can't see all the data, don't have access to all the dashboards and things like that. So keep that in mind as well. We've got 4 different dashboards in this particular application. You can have as many dashboards as you want. And dashboards are really a good way to just display information that's relevant to the end user. So as we go through these dashboards and these different types of roles in this demonstration, you're going to see different elements like shortcut buttons and grid views and lanes views and things like that. And really it's designed to create a working space for different users. So different dashboards might look different, and they're very easy to configure in a way that makes sense for the person that's actually doing the work. With all that being said, let's start to move through this demonstration. And I'm going to start by just creating a new project. When I do that, I'm going to be taken to a custom form. All of these forms can be easily changed. We can add fields, we can take fields away, we can move them around, change the layout, and we'll touch on that here in just a few minutes. But for the basics here, we're going to start with a project name, and let's just call this my webinar project, maybe. I've got a drop down here to assign a project manager. I'm actually going to do that out on the dashboard. I can update the project start date to today. So we've got some dedicated date fields. Maybe our project deadline is in a month. It's defaulting this project stage to planning, but I'm actually going to change this to live. We're going to release this project as we complete this. For this project type here, you're going to see that I've got 3 different project types in my particular demonstration. I've got 2 that are customer facing and 1 that is not. And if I select one of these customer ones, there's actually a show hide rule set up here that will then say, if you select a customer type project, select a customer, and I'll say Hyundai in this case, and select an anticipated project revenue, and I'll say $10,000. So those show hide rules, we can do required fields. There's a lot of different rules you can put on these forms to make it just as easy as possible for your end users to know what's important to fill out and really focus on the information at hand so they don't have a bunch of excess fields that they're maybe not using. I can also attach some documentation. So if I want to pull over a PDF here, drop that in the project agreement, we can hold PDFs, Word docs, things of that nature very easily within TrackVia. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Changes on this. And what's going to happen is the way that I've set up this project management app is because I've selected this customer implementation project type, there's a series of tasks that we have to complete for every customer implementation. So those tasks are going to auto create for me down here, and these will be the tasks that we'll work through for this project. I can always remove tasks. I can use this button over here to add a new task if there's kind of an ad hoc thing, or if you do project management in a totally different way where every project's going to be more of an ad hoc, that's totally fine. It's just the way that I have this one set up. It's going to generate those tasks for me. Let's step back out to the dashboard here. And when I do that, you're going to see there's our webinar project. It's currently in the resource not assigned bucket. And you'll see that each of these projects here are color coded based on their status. So if it's live, it's green, ready for review is in purple. That's just some conditional formatting that we've got set up that can make it really easy for someone to look at a view, look at a dashboard, and just know what's coming down the pipeline. So I'm going to pick up this webinar project, and I'm just going to move it over and assign it out to Brandon Gill, or myself in this case. This is what we call a lanes view. It's just another way to interact with the data. There's a lot of different ways to interact with data within TrackVia that can make it very easy, again, just based on what you prefer as a user and what's going to be most beneficial to you. Now that I've done that, I'm going to move over to this next dashboard, this My Projects dashboard here, which is, again, a dashboard that's designed for a different user in mind. It's designed for a project manager. So I'm seeing some different elements. I'm seeing a project task timeline. So this is where I can assign out the individual tasks. I can see all of the projects that are assigned to me. I've got some additional shortcut buttons here. So again, creating an interface that makes sense for this particular user. Now, another thing I want to showcase, if I bring over my email here from my other screen, you're going to see that 0 minutes ago, I got this email notification letting me know that I had been assigned to this webinar project. I can see some basic details here, and I also have a live button here that will actually let me go directly into the record we just made if I were to click it. We do automated email notifications out of TrackVia, and it's something that's totally customizable that you can set up. So you're not getting these all the time for anything that happens, but we can have them happen based on an action or based on changes over time, which can be really powerful because I think a lot of times we all get caught in this thing where you've emailed someone and then they've forgotten about it and that task gets dropped. So automating these email notifications can really help people know when workflow needs to happen and when data needs to move on to the next step. Get rid of that. And now back on my dashboard here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this project task timeline to just start to assign out these tasks for that project I was assigned to. So perhaps I'll assign this customer kickoff meeting to myself, application build, maybe I'll give to Pamela Mitchell, the weekly review meeting, maybe I'll give that to Jenny Beer. I'll take care of the admin training perhaps, and the scoping and statement of work I'll also give down here to Jenny Beer. And you'll see that I'm assigning these out over time throughout November, things like this. We can also switch it over to a calendar view. So it's just different ways, again, to interact with and view the data. And as I make those changes, dragging it out to the different resources, I can go down here and click on our webinar project, and you're going to see all the same data that we filled in. But now I have the task resources filled out. I've got a scheduled start date and a due date filled out as well. So everything's going to update in real time as we move the data around in TrackVia. All right, now we're going to jump over to this dashboard here called My Tasks. This is a dashboard set up for our individual contributor, the person that's going to start to tackle some of these tasks for us. And you can see the two tasks that I assigned to myself are on this calendar type view, my customer kickoff meeting and my admin training. They're also down here in a queue for my open tasks. Right now they're showing up in blue, but as we go through this, you're going to see how they change to different colors through some conditional formatting that I've got set up. And I'm going to go ahead and complete one of these tasks, but I'm actually going to do so on a mobile device that I've got sitting on my desk here in front of me. So if I bring this over, this is reflecting off of an iPad that I've got sitting on my desk here. And what I like to do for folks, I like to hit the home button there to show you that we do have a TrackVia application. You can see it right there. It's downloadable in both the iOS store and the Google Play Store. You could go check it out right now. Obviously, many of you probably don't have logins to TrackVia, but you could download it and see how it looks. And the important thing here is this is a native mobile application. So that allows us to do a few different things. For one, it allows us to take full advantage of the device's capabilities. So location capture, photo capture, voice to text, all of those things that you can do on your normal mobile device, it will trade over into TrackVia, which can be really handy when it comes to collecting data. The other thing is because it's a native mobile app, there's no separate code base to manage, so it's very easy to make these changes. Basically, any change that you make on the web is fully available on mobile. You can see I've got all the same buttons here. We saw that calendar view. If I were to click into this calendar view on the mobile, it's going to render essentially the exact same as it does on the web. So if you have a mobile use case, we work with a lot of construction companies and field service companies, this can be really handy. And the last piece about mobile I'll bring up is we do have an offline mode as well. So if you're in areas that maybe don't have the best cell service, you can continue to collect information. And then once it syncs back up to the internet, all of that will just sync back up and all of your data is captured. So that's really handy for a lot of our oil field customers, a lot of our agricultural customers and things like that. All right, enough talking. Let's go ahead and complete an open task here. When I kick off that workflow, it's going to say, what task am I completing? And I'm going to do this customer kickoff project in this case. And it'll bring me to a form on a mobile device. So we've seen forms on the web. This is how they look on a mobile device. We can see that some of this information is already filled in, our task overview. So what's the actual task? What project is assigned to? Who's the owner? What's the status of it? We'll see that we've got the scheduled start and due date already filled in. The actual date started is actually tagged to today's date because I kicked off this workflow today. And then if I hit this actual date completed, I could say maybe I completed it today as well, and it'll calculate how long it took me to complete this task. I've got some task notes here. A lot of people will use forms like this for work instructions, whether they're attaching a PDF or just including some work instructions in a text type field like this, but you've got some task notes here. We can upload files. And then again, taking advantage of the mobile device, I can grab some different information like our location. So this is going to tag me to my apartment in Broomfield, Colorado. I can grab a photo. So this can be great for things like quality control use cases or shipping, receiving use cases and things of that nature. Maintenance is another big one. And we can use that photo and it will just append right into this record. The other thing that's really nice about the photo is that you can actually draw on it. So if I were to click into here and call out a particular area, again, maybe for a quality use case or something like that, we could note where there was an issue, note where there was damage, whatever the case may be. And that will actually tag into the record as well and stay with the record. Finally, I'll just sign off on this, verifying that I completed this step. What I like to tell people with the digital signature is it can be used for a lot of things, obviously, shipping, receiving use cases, supply chain type use cases, but anything within TrackVia actually has a trail, an audit trail that allows us to see who did what, when, and where in the system at any time. So while the signature can be great, and it's definitely something a lot of people take advantage of, it's not necessary to know who actually completed that task. I'll go ahead and hit save on that. And when I do so, it takes me back out to our dashboard. Now, if I move the mobile device back over and I just refresh my screen, we're going to see that all the data will update. And I can see that my customer kickoff meeting went from blue to green. That just means that I completed it, and I completed it on time in this case. So I'm going to step out of the kind of workflow demo that we've been doing, and I want to showcase a couple of other things, some analytics as well as some of the admin capabilities. But just let's recap what we've done. We've created a project from the role of a project director. We've assigned that project out to a project manager. That project manager has been able to assign out those individual tasks, and then as an individual contributor, we're able to complete a task on a mobile device and continue on with our other tasks and start to complete that project and look at the project's completeness, all within one workflow application instead of emails and spreadsheets. So we've covered quite a bit in the last 15 minutes, but I think that's a pretty good workflow and something that I think we've all experienced in the past. I want to take a little bit of time to just show you some analytics capabilities. You've seen some charts sprinkled throughout these other dashboards, but here's one that I dedicated just to charts. You don't have to do that, but sometimes it can be nice. We've got things like pivot tables that allow us to see, which of our project managers is contributing to the most revenue and what types of projects are contributing the most revenue. We've got some pie charts that are showing us which of our customers are spending the most money with us. And the cool thing about all of these charts is they're all completely drillable. So if I look at projects initiated per quarter, I can click into Q4. There's our webinar project. I can click into that. I can see all the details around it, including that task that we just completed. And if I click down to that level, we can see all the information that we just captured. There's my water bottle and that signature there as well. Now, in the next few minutes, I want to take a little bit of time to just show you the admin side of things, show you how we make some changes within TrackVia. And I'm going to make a pretty simple change. I'm going to start over here on our tables. So all of the applications we have in TrackVia, underlying them is a relational database. So it's made up of a series of tables. And I'm going to go down to our projects table and hit edit on that. This takes us to our table editor, where on the left-hand side, we have all of the different field types we can use. So text and number fields are fields that we're typically going to type into. Dropdowns and checkboxes can be great for keeping your data clean. They're some of my favorite fields because it gives people an option of what to select instead of just typing in anything. Date and time fields we've taken a look at. Some of these specialty fields we've taken a look at, like images and documents. Location fields we've taken a look at. And then, of course, calculated fields, where really any calculation you might do in Excel or a similar program you can do within TrackVia. In the middle here is all of the raw data being collected on this table. So this might not be the data that we expose to our end users. If I scroll down, you'll see we've got a lot of calculations happening here, but in its most raw form, this is what's being captured on this table. And if I want to make a change to any of this information, it's very easy to do so. All I have to do is say, what field type do I want? And I'm going to use a drop-down list, and I drag it and I drop it and I give it a name, and maybe we'll call this one our project priority. You can see that I make this field happen quite a bit, and we'll give it some options: high, medium, and low, and hit save. And that's really all it takes to add a field into a table. There's no coding required, there's no expertise required. It's just, what field do you want? Let's add it into there, and it's very easy to do so. Next, what we'll want to do is we'll actually want to add this onto a form so we can start to collect this information. So if I go to our forms drop down, forms are separated out by table as well. So if I go down here to this project details form, I can edit it. And it looks pretty similar to our table editor. Left-hand side is the fields we can use. Right-hand side is how we want the actual form to be laid out. And I can see my project priority form right here. So I might pick that up, drag it over, and drop it in place. Don't need to know the definition of that. And I can pick it up and I can move it over maybe up to the top here. And I can even edit the characteristics of the field. So if I click into here, I could say maybe I want this field to be required on this form. So anytime you fill in a project, I want to know what the priority of the project is. And I can change the colors of these fields as well. I can change the way they're laid out. Maybe I want this to be more of a blue, and hit save on that. And everything's going to update in real time. So now as I go back to our main dashboard here, and I go to create a new project, you're going to see there's our project priority field. There's the options we had for it. It's got a little asterisk by it telling me that it's a required field. So if I try to hit save on this, it's actually not going to let me because I need to fill in both the project priority and the project type. So again, no coding required to make those changes. We do have some coding options for a little more advanced functionality, but a majority of our customers are able to get by on what I just showed you there, which I'm not a coder by any means, and I can still build out some pretty robust applications with this. So at this time, I want to start to open it up for some questions, as well as just talk about some final notes here in the last 5 minutes. So just to cover some of the things that Michelle covered, after this webinar, we will be emailing you a recording within 48 hours. So if you want to pass it around, if you just wanted to go back and look at a particular area of it, you can do that. We also really appreciate any feedback on these webinars. We do these webinars monthly for prospects and customers and really anyone that wants to learn about low code, because it is an exciting new technology area that is really picking up some steam. So there's a short survey. It's got 3 questions to it. If anyone would like to fill that out, I'd really appreciate it to know what we can do better for next month. And if you have any additional questions or any immediate information that you want, I've included my email here, so you can email me and I can answer those questions, or at least get you in contact with a person that can answer those questions better. Before we say thank you, we did have a couple of questions here, so I wanted to address those. So question number 1 was, what are some additional form rules that we can set up on those forms? And that's a great question. Forms are actually one of my favorite parts of TrackVia. I think they're very versatile in what they can do. And really with form rules, you can set up a lot of different rules. You can set up things like a cascading drop down. So maybe based on the fact that I selected the project priority as high, maybe that limits down which projects I can select or something like that. So you can actually have some dynamic filtering on those. We saw how we could set them to be required. You can set them for show hide capabilities. You could set them up for different rules, so they'll display different information, maybe narrow down some locations and things like that. So a lot of different options that you have when it comes to form rules. One other question that we got is actually a question that we get quite a bit, so I'm always happy to answer it, and that is, how does TrackVia integrate into other systems? And I think it's a question we get quite a bit because a lot of our customers are very large. They've got large systems that they're using today, and many of those customers utilize TrackVia to fill gaps in those systems. So areas where those systems maybe aren't as flexible, they can utilize TrackVia if they push data into TrackVia or pull data out of TrackVia. So for our integrations options, we have a couple of different ways to do it. We do have an open and bidirectional API. It's fully documented. We give everybody access to that. So really, if you have a cloud hosted system that needs to talk with TrackVia, that's one way to set it up, and we're happy to help you in that process as well. The other option is with what we call TrackVia Integrations Platform. And what we've done is we've actually partnered with a company called Workato, which is an iPaaS solution. It's an integrations platform as a service solution. And what they do is they've created an integrations framework that allows you to drag and drop different connectors in between systems. So think like TrackVia and Gmail, TrackVia and SAP, TrackVia and Oracle, things like that, to build these integrations without any coding. It kind of fits our mantra of being able to drag and drop and build technologies out. So with that, we were the only OEM partner of Workato, so we get to take advantage of their tools in order to build integrations between systems. So that can be really powerful as well, because again, you don't have to know how to code to build those integrations. I've built a few integrations, and I certainly don't know how to work with an API or anything like that. So when it comes to integrating, those are really the 2 areas that I see most often. Some people will choose to run an Excel spreadsheet and do basically more of a manual integration where they're pulling data into and things like that. But those are a couple of different options. One final question we got is, can we remove the TrackVia branding on a solution built with TrackVia? The answer to that is to some extent, yes. So as we talked about with the logo that you saw there, you can remove that, really make it look and feel like your own. We can give you a custom URL. I believe TrackVia's name is still in that URL a little bit. And then we do also have the option, this is more of a premium option, but for the mobile device, we can do a white labeled mobile offering so that it really does, when you log into the App Store, it is your app there. Your employees download it, and there's no TrackVia nomenclature there at all. It's all coming from your company. So there are several different ways we can remove some of that TrackVia branding and really make it look and feel like the system is your own. So those are some great questions. We've got a couple more, and for those, we will follow up after the webinar. We are at the 11:30 mark, so I want to thank everybody for attending today. If you do have time, please answer some of those survey questions. We're always looking for ways to improve these month over month, and hopefully everybody learned a little something. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Thanks, everyone.